Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today for this special global event. Before we continue, I would like to point out that we are not using the chat button and ask that you please send your questions and comments to the Q&A button on your screen. We will try to address these questions at the Q&A session at the end of the event. My name is Michael Steinberger, and I am founder and CEO of Jewish Heritage Alliance, a platform dedicated to promoting the story of Sefarad to the world at large. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, I would like to reiterate Jewish Heritage Alliance mission. We are a global platform that seeks to research, capture, and promote the legacy of Sefarad. The word Sefarad in Hebrew literally means Spain, but in historical context, Sefarad refers to the Jews of the Iberian Peninsula, nowadays Spain and Portugal. I am both proud and humbled to have brought today's event to fruition. When we started to plan this program, we did not know or anticipate that the world would be confronted by the current war in Ukraine. What a perfect time to gather and speak of tolerance and peaceful existence. As the title of the program suggests, we are here to discuss the connection between the medieval golden age of Sefarad and the unfolding Abraham Accords taking place in the Middle East today, highlighting the benefits of peace coexistence between Jews, Muslims, and Christians. I would like to acknowledge today's participants as follows: Mr. Yaakov Hagoel, His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Nahumi, the Honorable David Friedman, His Excellency Bishop Paul Hinder, our guest of honor, Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi, His Excellency Gilad Irdan, His Excellency Ahmed Obeid El-Mansouri, His Excellency Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa Al-Khalifa. Today's moderator is Fleur Hassan Nahum, and joining us is my colleague, Isaac Amon. Before we get started, I wish to acknowledge the agony and suffering of the people of the Ukraine having to endure the onslaught of the Russian army and the disaster and suffering being inflicted on this nation. Our hearts and prayers are with the victims and their families. At this time, I would like to thank our program co-sponsor, the Dr. M. Lee Pierce Chair in Middle East Peace Studies at the University of Miami, the Sue Leonard Miller Center of Contemporary Judaic Studies, and the Feldenkrais Program of Judaic Studies, University of Miami. I'd also like to acknowledge today's co-hosting partners. I would like to thank the World Zionist Organization, Honor Museum of the Jewish People, the Weizmann National Museum of American Jewish History, the Society for Crypto-Judaic Studies, Fundación Hispano-Judaica, the American Sephardi Federation and its Institute of Jewish Experience, the Hadassah Brandeis Institute of Brandeis University, Kulanu, Jewish Learning Center, the Jewish Studio, I apologize, Centro de Estudios de Tres Montes in Porto, the European Jewish Community Center, and Reconectar. And so now let's get started. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Isaac Amon, a descendant of Moses Amon, Jewish physician to the Ottoman Sultan Soleimani, the Magnificent. He is an attorney, a counselor at law, and is the director of academic research and program development at Jewish Heritage Alliance. Take it away, Isaac.
Thank you, Michael. Esteemed dignitaries, excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. On behalf of our co-sponsoring and co-hosting partners, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to this special online event, The Golden Age of Sefarad and the Abraham Accords, how Muslims, Jews, and Christians created a culture of tolerance. In September 2020, a historic milestone was achieved when agreements were signed at the White House between the State of Israel, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates, collectively known as the Abraham Accords. These agreements have been recognized as a key step in normalizing relations between the Jewish state and her Arab neighbors, following on peace treaties with the Arab Republic of Egypt, 1979, and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, 1994. They have accelerated peace and collaboration as seen via diplomatic and cultural progress in the Middle East and North Africa. Other countries have become a part, and more will likely join. We are honored to have individuals who played a key role in this incredible process here with us today. While the Accords are most promising, a precedent for interfaith collaboration, the golden age of medieval Spain, or Sefarad, stands as a testament to coexistence of the three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The earliest connection between Sefarad and the region of the United Arab Emirates dates back 850 years to Benjamin of Tudela. Throughout the 1160s, he visited Jewish communities and cities across Europe, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. And in his diary, he recorded the presence of a small Jewish community in Kis, part of the current-day UAE Emirate, Ras al-Khaimah. Perhaps more significantly, this Jewish Marco Polo's travels occurred while the golden age of Sefarad, centered around Al-Andalus, the south of Spain, where the biblical Sefarad still existed. In 711, Muslim forces under the leadership of Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the Straits of Gibraltar and conquered most of the Iberian Peninsula from the Visigothic kingdom. This military victory incorporated Sefarad into the Islamic world and created a more favorable environment for Muslims, Christians, and especially Jews who had been bitterly persecuted by the Visigoths. From the 10th to the 12th centuries, the time of the Golden Age, adherents of the three Abrahamic faiths engaged in cross-cultural, religious, and social dialogue, often referred to as convivencia. In notable fields of human endeavor, architecture and astronomy, history and literature, poetry and philosophy, the children of the biblical and Quranic patriarch Ibrahim, or Avraham Avinu, strove to connect with monotheists of other faiths. They collaborated in pursuit of underlying commonalities, pondered the mysteries of the cosmos, and several remarkable individuals emerged in this milieu. These included Hasdai ibn Shaprut, who acted as vizier to Caliph Abd al-Rahman III, the famous poet and philosopher Judah Halevi, Samuel Hanagid, the Talmudic scholar, poet, and commander of Muslim armies, the biblical commentator Abraham ibn Ezra, the poet Solomon ibn Gabirol, and the scholar, legal codifier, physician, and philosopher Moses ben Maimonides, or the Rambam, who was a contemporary of the famous Islamic philosopher and fellow native of Cordoba, Ibn Rushd or Averroes, sometimes called the father of rationalism. Under some enlightened Christian rulers like Alfonso X, the Wise of Castile and Leon, who called himself king of the three religions, interfaith coexistence reemerged as Jews, Christians, and Muslims translated works of Hebrew and Arabic into Latin and the Castilian vernacular, yet the spirit of convivencia was fleeting. And after Alfonso, the glory that was the product of coexistence between Abrahamic faiths for centuries became but a memory in Iberia. Like every time and place in human history, tensions existed, outbursts happened, and persecutions transpired. The Golden Age was not perfect, but great strides occurred in this atmosphere because moderates in each religious tradition collaborated until extremists brought it to an end, evident in the lifetime of Benjamin of Tudela. For Muslims, Christians, and Jews in the Golden Age, there existed no conflict between reason and faith. On the contrary, each advance in human knowledge contributed to a greater understanding of the magnificent handiwork of the Creator. Across time and space, Sephardic Jews have carried this fundamental ethos with them, including in our time embodied by today's guest of honor, Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi. 10 centuries separate us today from that time and place, and still the legacy of the Golden Age remains as one of the most enduring tributes to a world of religious pluralism. Yet our age is unique in history. A sovereign Jewish state exists side by side her Christian and Muslim neighbors as members of the global community of nations. As the Abrahamic faith celebrate the holidays of Passover, Easter, and Ramadan next month, let us remember that while a culture of tolerance and coexistence is not easy to attain, let alone preserve, the Golden Age of Sefarad can serve as a lasting model for the 21st century and beyond. Our age can draw upon the past for guidance and perhaps even be a model, a Golden Age 2.0 for generations yet to come. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you for the eloquent background of the Golden Age and its profound attributes. More on that during the panel discussion. And now I'd like to turn to opening remarks. So I would like to introduce His Excellency, Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Naoumi. He's a prominent advocate of global peace, tolerance, and coexistence. He serves as first chairman of the International Steering Board of HEDIA, the International Center of Excellence for Countering Violence, Extremism, based in Abu Dhabi. He also founded and currently chairs the World Council of Muslim Communities and was the first Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Elders. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Good day, everyone. It's a great opportunity to be part of this outstanding webinar. And, it's fortunate that we are having this webinar while we in the region are making history today through the summit that are held in Israel today, where the foreign minister from the UAE, Bahrain, Egypt, Morocco, with the US Secretary of State are in Israel for the first time, such a ministerial meeting happening. And this is where we see that through the Abraham Accord, we are making history, and we should be proud of this achievement, and we should keep the momentum in pushing the boundaries to bring us together and to promote coexistence value that we share as human beings. There is one thing that always I highlight whenever I participate in such events, that the root of Christian, Jews, and Muslim are not in New York or in Washington, D.C. or London or Paris. Their roots are in the Middle East. And this is where it's very important, to acknowledge this. Jews, Christian, and Muslim, they are part of one history in this region. And they should be also part of the future of this region. And this is where, we have to work hard to make sure that we are engaged actually in working together in promoting the common values that we share as human beings, and in investing in the new generation to let them feel that, they share the same value, they share the same challenges, they share the same opportunities in the future. And we have to work hard and fight to change our region. Enough suffering, enough hate, enough wars. The region needs peace, and the new generation, they deserve that we commit ourselves to create a better future for them by promoting peace. Michael?
So thank you, Your Excellency Al-Rashid Nawawi. Thank you for those opening remarks. At this time, it is my honor and privilege to introduce Mr. Yaakov Hagoel, Chairman of the Executive of the World Zionist Organization, and currently also acting Chairman of the Executive of the Jewish Agency for Israel. Mr. Hagoel has been shuttling between Israel and Europe due to the crisis in Ukraine, and so he sent us this brief recording, blessing us for today's event. Here is Mr. Hagoel.
שלום לכולם מירושלים, בירתה הנצחית של עם ישראל. אני רוצה לברך את כל באי הכנס על הכנס החשוב הזה, ואת מייקל שטיינברגר ואת הרב עבדי על העשייה הטובה ועל החיבור של כל אוהבי ישראל למדינת ישראל. תודה רבה לכם מירושלים.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hagoel, for those brief remarks. We appreciate it. So now it is my honor and privilege to introduce His Excellency, Bishop Paul Hinder. He's the Vicar Apostolic of the Apostolic Vicariate of Southern Arabia and the Apostolic Administrator of the Vicariate of the Northern Arabia. He holds many roles, including as consultor to the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. He too is traveling today and was kind enough to send us his blessings and remarks via video. Here is the Bishop.
Dear Elia Abadi, Senior Rabbi, Jewish Council of the Emirates, Your Excellencies, respected dignitaries, and my brothers and sisters, I greet you all with the same greeting which we use in the three Abrahamic religions. Salam, Shalom, peace be with you. The opening words from the Declaration of the Church on the relations with the non-Christian religions of the Second Vatican Council, Nostra Aetate, given by Pope Paul VI on 28 October 1965, says, In our time, when day by day mankind is being drawn closer together and the ties between different peoples are becoming stronger, the Church examines more closely her relationship to non-Christian religions. In her task of promoting unity and love among men, indeed among nations, she considers above all in this declaration what men have in common and what draws them to fellowship. End of quote. In today's world of technology and development, the human person remains in want for a true relationship with God and one another. The war and the deteriorating situation in Ukraine, 7 years of conflict and war in Yemen, and a very peaceless past and other humanitarian crises remind us the urgency to write of our foreheads the golden rule given by the Almighty to love God and to love our neighbor, which is more than necessary now than ever for the human person to rediscover who we are and to whom we belong. On February 4th, 2019, the UAE ushered in the historic document on human fraternity for world peace and living together by Holy Father Pope Francis and Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayeb, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. This is not merely yet another document to be stored in the libraries or a matter of academic interest for scholars. It was a significant step towards the realization of the divine plan of God, the creator of the entire human race. This document opened venues of great opportunities and hope for many people and nations who think in the same direction of brotherhood and harmony. The historic Abrahamic Accords between the United Arab Emirates, Israel and Bahrain, and later accepted by more countries in the Arabian world, reflects the common desire and aspirations for human fraternity and harmonious living among the signatory nations and peoples. These movements of friendship and brotherly accords again point us towards our past, that we come from the same Creator. Our religion and our faith have a common history, and at the same time they indicate a conjoining future, an end to which we all aim, to meet the Lord. I quote from the same declaration Nostra Aetate. One is the community of all peoples, one their origin, for God made the whole human race to live over the face of the earth. One also is their final goal, God. His providence, His manifestations of goodness, His saving design extend to all men until that time when the elect will be united in the holy city, the city ablaze with the glory of God, where the nations will walk in His light. And further it says, in company with the prophets, the Church awaits that day, known to God alone, on which all peoples will address the Lord in a single voice and serve Him shoulder to shoulder. It is also important that the vision of the document of human fraternity enters every fabric of our society. For this to be realized, religion and religious leaders also have their own unique role to play. I remember the words of Pope Francis at the Founders' Memorial in Abu Dhabi on the day of the signing of the document. He said, "There is no alternative. We either build the future together or there will not be a future. Religions, in particular, cannot renounce the urgent task of building bridges between peoples and cultures." End of quote. The onus stands on all of us, together with our governments, to build on our common past and to strive for a promising future where everyone can enjoy the peace, harmony, and brotherhood as intended by God. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Bishop Paul Hinder, for your blessings and the inspiring message. And before we turn the program over to the panelists, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce His Excellency Gilad Erdan, Ambassador of Israel to the United Nations since 2020. He has previously served as a member of the Knesset, Minister of Strategic Affairs, Minister of Public Security, and Ambassador to the United States. Here is his video.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Jewish Heritage Alliance and its CEO and founder, Michael Steinberger, for organizing this fascinating event. I would also like to thank today's guest of honor, my friend, Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi. Rabbi Abadi, your dedication to building bridges between faiths is a true inspiration, and the State of Israel thanks you. Over a year and a half ago, I had the honor to witness history in the making. As I stood on the south lawn of the White House on that September day, the air felt different. There was an electrifying feeling of excitement, and I couldn't believe that this moment had come. I watched as the entire future of the Middle East completely shifted from a future of division and intolerance to a future of coexistence and collaboration. This was how it felt when Israel signed the Abraham Accords. From that defining historic moment, the Middle East underwent a transformation. The entire region shifted in more ways than one. Almost immediately, the new bond between Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco erupted into a flurry of business deals, investments, transactions, and cooperation. Even a year and a half later, we still hear of inspiring new advancements every single day. Israelis are growing avocado in the Atlas Mountains. You can now eat at a kosher restaurant in Manama or Abu Dhabi. In fact, I just heard that in a couple of days, Mona El-Mansouri, an Emirati fashion designer, will be displaying her latest fashion collection at the Tel Aviv Fashion Week. Friends, these people-to-people interactions are living proof that this is an irreversible peace, a peace that will last forever. But beyond the endless economic prospects that the Accords created, another shift occurred, a psychological shift. The Abraham Accords created a completely new atmosphere in the region. Israelis have finally begun to feel like an integral part of the Middle East and have been accepted with open arms. The Accords showed Israelis, our new regional partners, and the rest of the world just how much the sons of Abraham truly have in common. As history teaches us, when all three Abrahamic faiths live in harmony, everyone prospers. This deep people-to-people peace has truly transformed the region and has ushered in a new golden age for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. And friends, this is only the beginning. I know that one day soon, this peace will spread all across the Middle East. So I wish today's panelists a fruitful discussion, and may this panel and the peace it represents usher in a golden future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency Gilad Erdan, for your welcome and inspiring acknowledgements. Thank you very much. And now it is time to turn to the program. And so I would like to introduce today's moderator. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Fleur Hassan Nahum. Fleur is the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem in charge of foreign relations, economic development, and tourism. She's also co-founder of the UAE-Israel Business Council and founder of the Gulf Israel Women's Forum. Welcome, Fleur.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you so much for this incredible initiative to do this event, to try and talk about what we have in common with the Abraham Accords has in common with the Convivencia. And I have to say, this is something which is, of course, very close to my heart, because I think I come from probably the last corner in the Iberian Peninsula where it still feels like Andalusia of the Convivencia. I grew up in Gibraltar and from Spanish, Jewish, and Moroccan heritage. And Gibraltar is what was left of that Convivencia, where Jews and Christians and Muslims and Hindus lived side by side, celebrating each other's festivals in complete coexistence. And I think the biggest proof of that is that my father, who was a proud Jew and in a minority, in a Jewish minority in Gibraltar, was constantly elected for government by a Catholic majority. And I think that proves that this is a part of the world which still preserves that incredible coexistence. 2 years ago, when we believed that peace and normalization was going to be coming with the Gulf states, myself and a friend created the UAE-Israel Business Council. And shortly after, the Abraham Accords was announced. And after that, we created the Gulf-Israel Women's Forum to encourage women's leadership and a warm and sustainable peace that can be also led by women. And I'm very proud that a lot of the people on this panel I consider friends, colleagues, and mentors in this journey that we've had since the Abraham Accords. So personally for me, as a Spanish Jew, this is a very exciting moment because we can connect to incredible ages. And I hope this age that we're in right now, the Abraham Accords, will spread and last for many, many years to come. So I'm going to introduce my panel, and then we're going to start asking questions to our panelists. Our first speaker will be Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi. I'm proud to call him my friend. Since the very beginning, when he got to Dubai, I was there. I came to all of his events, and I'm very proud to say he comes to my events. He was recently at the Women's Day celebration in the Israel Pavilion at the Expo. Rabbi Abadi, Rabbi of the Jewish Council of the Emirates, Rabbi of the Association of Gulf Jewish Communities, the AGJC, the chairman of the Council of Sephardic Sages. He served as founding rabbi of the Amon Safra Synagogue in New York City and comes from a long and distinguished rabbinical lineage. He's also a medical doctor, gastroenterologist, and I'm very proud that he's on our panel. Our second speaker, we've already heard from His Excellency, Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Noemi. He's a prominent advocate of global peace, tolerance, and coexistence, serves as first chairman of the International Steering Board of Hidayah, the International Center of Excellence for Countering Violence, Extremism, based in Abu Dhabi. He also founded and currently chairs the World Council of Muslim Communities and was the first Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Elders. We are really honored to have with us Dr. Al-Rashid Al-Noemi. Our third speaker is His Excellency Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri, also I'm proud to say a close friend, and the first ever event that was done in Ahmed's museum, the Crossroads of Civilization Museum, to celebrate something similar that we're celebrating this evening, to celebrate what Jews and Muslims have in common, what unites us. I was very proud to put together with my friend Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri. He is the founder of the Crossroads of Civilization Museum in Dubai, aiming to promote multiculturalism, tolerance, positive coexistence. First museum accessible in Hebrew language in the city, and its collection of historical Jewish artifacts of the Middle East. And I have to add also the first ever Holocaust exhibition in the Arab world that His Excellency Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri put together. Our fourth speaker, very, very, very proud to say, one of the architects of the Abraham Accords, the Honorable Ambassador David Friedman, Ambassador of the United States to Israel from 2017 to 2021. During his term, he played a formative role in the negotiations and implementation of the Abraham Accords. I was there and I saw him put it all together. And he also led the efforts of the United States to move its embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Proud that he's on our panel with us today. And finally, and of course not least, And I've had the pleasure to meet His Excellency Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa al-Khalifa on his visit to Jerusalem last year with Ambassador Huda Nunu, a close friend. And I was very, very honored to have him and take him to the Old City. Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence in Bahrain, also serves as Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees and Executive Director of the Issa Cultural Center. For his efforts in promoting cultural diversity, interreligious dialogue, he received the 2018 Mediterranean Prize for Culture and Peace. Quite the panel that the Jewish Heritage Alliance has put together for all of us. So let me start with our guest of honor and friend, Dr. Eli Abadi, Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi. Are the Abraham Accords the new convivencia of our era, Rabbi Abadi?
First of all, thank you very much, my dear Flora, dear friend. And I want to thank all the panelists, Your Excellencies, dear friend of mine, who really have accepted the invitation to come and participate. Your Excellency, Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Noemi, Your Excellency, Dr. Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri, of course, Your Excellency, my dear Ambassador David Friedman. It's really a pleasure to have you, and all the other participants who came to give me that honor. I'm humbled by your presence and by your participation. Thank you all, everyone who really is participating here tonight. It is the Abraham Accords. I believe it is the beginning again of that golden era in which Jews and Muslims living in the Middle Ages in Andalus or Muslim Spain that formed the golden age of Jewish, Muslim, and Christian harmony, an interfaith era of tolerance and convivencia. Jews, Christians, and Muslims mingled freely and comfortably. They immersed themselves in Arabic, Islamic culture, language, poetry, philosophy, and science. It has been already mentioned. I do believe that we are at that era of reliving that era, recreating that era. And that picture really went beyond Spain. It really encompassed the entire Muslim world, from Baghdad to Cordoba, and extended over the long centuries. And that's based on the Quran itself, the Holy Quran itself, where the nucleus of religious pluralism is really spelled and specified. In Surah number 256, it says very clearly that there is no compulsion in religion. And that was understood to mean that the non-Muslims were not to be forcibly converted. Moreover, as venerated people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab, Jews and Christians were allowed to live securely in their autonomous communities and to develop. And so I believe we are at the cusp of that renewed era in this 21st century. And I'm humbled and honored to be one of those people that are leading the Jewish community here in the UAE and in the Gulf, and given that honor for me to be here, and in a sense make history with the people of this region.
Rabbi Abadi, you are from Syrian Lebanese origin. I have been blown away hearing you sing Arabic songs in the UAE at the Shabbat table, and even at the Holocaust Remembrance event that our dear friend Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri put together, doing Yizkor, the prayer for the memory of the dead, of the sacrificed, in Arabic. I see you as the rabbi of the Emiratis as well as the rabbi of the Jews. How is that experience for you as a Sephardi, Mizrahi, Middle Eastern Jew coming back to the region and leading a new community?
Well, yes, indeed. My parents were born in Syria. They had to escape Syria, moved to Lebanon. I was born there. We almost had to escape Lebanon also. And for me to come back here is to close that circle. It is, in a sense, a way of saying we belong here, we belong in this region. And coming back, it's coming back to my own region, to my own place in a sense. And in fact, I have been welcomed here by many Emiratis as to my second home. I could say maybe it's my first home, because it's coming back to the region with the same culture. Yes, I enjoy very, very, very much Arabic culture, Arabic songs, especially the classical one, and I do sing them whenever I have the opportunity. I hear them every day as I'm driving. The only songs I hear are those Arabic classical songs. But you know, the Arabic language has been, and even during the time of convivencia and the Golden Age, it was a very, very important language. You know, we had grammarians that based the Hebrew grammar on the Arabic literature and Arabic language. The very famous Rav Saadia Gaon of the 10th century wrote poetry in Arabic. He was the head of the great yeshiva in Baghdad, as you know, and he compiled monograph on Jewish law in Arabic. His famous magnum opus known as the Tafsir, which is the biblical commentary of the entire Bible, all written in Arabic. And so the Arabic language was very, very important for the Golden Era. And so therefore, as an important language, it continues to be important as it is a sister language to Hebrew. Most of the grammatical verbs that we have are very, very similar. They basically follow the same rhyme, especially when it comes to poetry, the same metric also. And so to understand good Hebrew, I think you need to understand Arabic very well. And, you know, I always joke that, yes, the Emiratis do consider me their rabbi. Believe it or not, more than the Jews.
That's always the case. Come on.
Yeah. If I open a synagogue and say this is for my Emirati brothers, they will all come without any question. Yes. But if I say it's for the Jews, they start asking me what time, how many people, how long it's going to take, what kind of melodies you're going to use. But when it comes to the Emiratis, as a rabbi, whatever you say will follow you. Indeed.
I've seen it. I've seen it myself, Rabbi Abadi. His Excellency, Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Nuaimi, it's so wonderful that you're here with us and all the work that you've done behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And I wanted to ask you, the UAE has taken as its flagship tolerance. Your wonderful ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, has really taken the subject of tolerance for a number of years now and has been a leader in that, and his bravery in making peace and normalization with Israel with the Abraham Accords is evident, and we are reaping the fruits today. When do you think that shift happened, that the UAE decided to be the flagship of the Middle East, of a tolerant society, accepting other minorities?
Well, first, nice meeting you here, even from a distance.
But
you see, first, when you mentioned the golden era, is it the beginning? Well, I think we are, you know, living the golden era in the UAE. We have a very diverse community, and all of them, they enjoy the coexistence value. They enjoy the safety. They enjoy peace. They enjoy prosperity. And this is what we are proud of. And by the way, the word tolerance does not reflect the word tasamuh in Arabic. Our problem with the term that we couldn't find the right term in English, which is you know what we mean by tolerance, by tasamuh. The tasamuh, it means that something deep from your heart, not as the English word, tolerance, that I will tolerate you, that's mean kind of acceptance,
I agree.
So the word, yes. So it's very important. And this is where it's deep within the UAE, within the founder of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed, and later on, His Highness the Crown Prince, and this is where you see that we invested in our educational system, in the religious narrative, in our legislation, in engaging all the stakeholders to believe in the common values that we share as human beings, and to ensure that, we look at all religion with respect, and that everyone has the right to practice their religion. And the freedom of religion, it's not that something that we say it as propaganda, but we practice it. you know, many, they don't know that Sheikh Zayed, when he became a ruler of Abu Dhabi in 1966, the first worship place he built, it wasn't a mosque, it was a church, because he found out that there's, you know, a small group of Christian, they don't have a place to worship in Abu Dhabi, so he built a church in it, in Abu Dhabi. So, you know, what, you know, we see this, it's not something that, you know, we are doing it for others. We feel that we are doing it for our people. We need it because, you know, you have a very diverse community. You want to make sure that there is acceptance, there is respect, there is love, and they see the added values of living together. And this is where, you know, one of the things that we always say, you know, and it's deep in our curriculum and in our religious narrative, that, you know, great values are in all religion. There is no bad religion. There might be some bad religious leaders, but all religion, they have great values. And this is where we have to invest, you know, in these great values that bring us together and make sure that we are engaged. This is why, you know, after the announcement of the Abraham Accord, there was, they asked me, Ali, we want to do a Shabak online. Can you participate? I said, it will be my honor. I was the first, you know, to do that immediately after the announcement. And I said, you know, I want the Jewish community in the UAE to know this, that we welcome you to be part of our community. It's not because you want to be here, but we want you, because a diverse community in the UAE won't be completed unless Jews are part of it. And this is why I told them, look, feel safe, feel that you are welcome, feel that you are, you know, we want you to be part of this community. And this is where what Rabbi Abadi mentioned, we always encourage our youth, especially the new generation, to engage, you know, in all activities. And maybe you saw when you were in the UAE, wherever there is any event that organized by the Jewish community in the UAE or from outside the UAE, you will see a real engagement, you know, from our side, from our people. And, you know, I just want to highlight that we are, you know, having the Abraham House in Abu Dhabi. It's near my house in Saadiyat. And next year it will be open. And it is not only, you know, a synagogue and a church and a mosque. It's you know, it's an icon that will promote coexistence value. And it's not a place only for worship, but it will send the right message that we have to live together. We have to respect each other, and we should live with our differences. We shouldn't, you know, try to push others to, you know, to change or convert. No, we need to promote the values that, you know, we are living together with the differences that we have.
Dr. Al-Noaimi, all I can say is Mabruk. Thank you. I've been to the UAE many, many times. One of the times I was walking around and my husband was wearing a kippah, a skull cap, and a taxi stopped on the street, rolled down the window and said, "Welcome, Jews." So I've never felt safer and more welcome anywhere in the world, other than Israel, of course, than in the UAE. So thank you for setting the tone for the Jews coming back to the UAE and being able to develop this incredible relationship. Honorable Ambassador Friedman, you were so involved in this from the get-go. This is partly your vision. How much did you envision that this was going to be about Jewish Muslim as much as it was going to be about Israel and the Gulf? Could you have possibly imagined that this was the effects, the repercussions, the very positive effects of what you were putting together with President Trump?
Well, hi, Fleur. It's good to be with you. I think I'm down the block. I think you and I are the closest to each other right now.
I think so.
Geographically.
We could have done it in the same Zoom.
We could have sat together, I think. You know, look, we approached it politically initially. You know, our goal was to normalize countries. And in the context of normalizing countries, you know, there are issues that transcend, you know, individual feelings for each other. But then as soon as it took off, my God, you know, the relations just it was like what was holding, it was like a dam burst, and all of a sudden the relations between Jews, Muslims, and Christians just exploded. And of course, you know, what Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed is doing with the Abrahamic Center in Saadiyat, which is one of my favorite places in the Emirates. Dr. Ali, you live in a good neighborhood. That's,
Thank you.
I like that neighborhood very much. So, you know what? Just, you know, to put it in context, you know, I had a conversation with is the foreign minister stable care. I mean, just imagine that he and Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Khayani and Yair Lapid and the foreign minister of Morocco and Tony Blinken. I mean, they're all right now gathering at the Negev summit in Ben Gurion's birthplace. So that alone just tells you how far we've come. But when I met with Sheikh Abdullah and I talked about tolerance, he interrupted me and he said, why are we just pushing for tolerance? You know, you tolerate a toothache, you know, you tolerate a pain in your back, you know, like,
yes,
why is that why can't we love each other? Why can't we embrace each other? Why do we have to just tolerate each other? That really moved me. And it made me realize, just because until then, you know, the events in Washington were very formal, and, you know, we had a lot of time together, but not really time to really get to know each other as well. But in that moment, after speaking with them, I said, you know, this is a very warm relationship. I mean, this is really kind of, we are reinvigorating, whether you want to go back to Sefarad, to the golden age of Sefarad, you want to go back to the days of Isaac and Ishmael, you know, when they both came to bury their father Abraham when he passed away and they reconciled. You want to go back to the first Abraham Accord, which actually was between Abraham himself and Avimelech, the king of Gerar, back in the early parts of Genesis. We're not writing on a clean slate. You know, what we're doing is we're taking the extraordinary work of those that came before us, and we're building upon it, and we're taking the good from it, and we're trying to take all the acrimony and the violence and put it aside. We're basically, you know, looking at the opportunities for our children and grandchildren and saying those are more important than the narratives of our grandparents who retained, for lots of reasons, a different point of view. So no, I mean, the answer to the long-winded answer to your question is no. I did not fully appreciate just how warm, how humane, how personal the relationships would grow between Israel and its Arab neighbors. Now, looking back on it now, we say, well, of course, it's something that we should have seen coming. But at the time, I mean, the dividends here have, this is like, you know, an investment. You know, you hope to make 10, 20% on your money, and we're making 3, 4, 5 times our investment here, and we're just getting started. So it's tremendously gratifying that what we started with in the political realm has now blossomed into this relationship.
But there was obviously a premonition when you called it the Abraham Accords. There must have been some vision of this coming together of long lost cousins.
Well, there was. I mean, we needed a name, and we needed it very quickly because we had about 15 minutes before the announcement, and all of a sudden somebody said we got to come up with a name because we had Camp David, we had Oslo, and so a very smart two-star general named Miguel Correa quickly came up with the name Abraham Accords, and of course we all love the name. So I'd like to tell you that we knew exactly what we were doing and where it was going to lead. We hope for this. Actually, the results have exceeded our expectations.
That's amazing. I was on a panel with His Excellency Yusuf Al-Utaiba, a friend of yours, and he was saying, if anybody would have told me that Israeli Little League in baseball was going to be playing Dubai Little League in baseball, I would have said you're crazy. But that's what we're seeing right now. Every type of possible bridge building and connection that we can imagine, which is really incredible. Ahmed, His Excellency Ahmed Obeid al-Mansouri, my close friend and partner in so many things that we've already done together. Ahmed, you were collecting Jewish artifacts from the region 15 years ago way before the Abraham Accords, way before it was acceptable or fashionable to be doing this. What was going through your mind and what made you begin to start your relationship with the history of the Jewish people?
Thank you very much, Flair. Thanks a lot for everyone for hosting me here for the Jewish Heritage Center and for all the panelists and also our great participants. As everyone said before me, it is like in the one region, the roots of all of us are connected together by kinship. Can you hear me? Yes. The roots are connected together by kinship, and at the same time, what unifies us is one God, one religion, and the connectivity has been for a long time there. So, I heard several times from all of the speakers talk about the golden age. What do they mean by the golden age? Or the best time, the age of success, age of people living together in harmony. At the time where Middle East and MENA region, they were really, these are North Africa, they were contributing to the world in terms of values and everything. So if you think about it, as a country in the MENA region, as a city, as a country, that's very, very successful, you'll see the United Arab Emirates is really a true reflection of that time. The reflection of the values that really inherits that. In the UAE, we have certain values which are really reflect the true sense of the real Islamic and Arab world. And I think the best example of tolerance in terms of tasamuh, as my colleague was saying, Dr. Ali, in terms of embracing tasamuh, embracing openness. It's reflected in an Islamic way, in the Arabic way. It's also the Jewish way. The way which we used to live together is in the UAE. We as Emiratis are not disconnected from the world. We have been always part of the world. This region has been a crossroad for many, many centuries, not from now. In fact, from the artifacts that we have here, we have 63,000 BC. All of this reflects that, that we are part of the world. And the Jewish heritage has been in this region, part of our region, for a long time. That's why in the museum, we have the exhibition of the Jews and everywhere in the MENA region, just to remind the people, about the Jews are from the region. And also for us, in our heritage, we learn a lot from the history, from the Israelites, from the Jewish people. Even the Prophet said, if you want to learn about the history, go to the Ben Israel. And if you try to twist that, you'll be cursed. So we have done that. Secondly, also in Genesis, it says there, God says, I will bless who bless you and curse who curse you. So talks to Abraham, our great father. We praise 5 times a day, 17 times minimum. We bless Prophet Abraham and his children of Israel, Abraham. So this part of our religion. So the passion, the love between all of us has been there for a long time. And I think, it was a process in the region, for whatever political reason happened decades ago. It was a process that, that we went through it, and at the right time, we declared it. And this piece is very genuine, because you can see it was, the relation is very spontaneous, very genuine, people to people. And once the political relationship happened, thanks to our leaders, brave leaders, who really took that decision. Really, I think both people were embracing each other naturally. Not because they are, from the passionate side, also because each country has their own identities, and both nations, if you look at it, as we as Emiratis, we very strong identities, same as the Jews. We, both of us, have our own interests, and we think in the long term, we really have to revive the history and the laws. If you can see in the museum, we have, if we talk about Spain, we have the book of Ibn Sahal, Al-Ahkam al-Kubra, which was the base for the legislation in Andalus at that time, where everybody was living in peace, but contributing to the world. So we have the Sitar of Sultan Sulaiman al-Qanuni, the wall of Jerusalem. So there's connectivity. I have many pieces, even in the prayers. We have adopted things from Muslim Maimon, and then vice versa. In the Passover, many verses from the Quran was taken by the Jews. If you think about it, your religions do not take from each other, except both of us. And we all we come from the same God. Whether we are Jews or Christians or Muslims, it's all by the same God, and that unifies us more. In the Middle East, you cannot escape not talk about religion, about kinship. It is historical kinship, future alliance. That's what we are aiming. And and the culture of this cascade down from our leaders for the openness. Everything happened really reflects that.
And Ahmed, what made you decide to open the first ever Holocaust exhibition in your museum because your museum is not, that's not the theme. And you did it anyway, and you've been commemorating Holocaust Remembrance Day since the beginning of the Abraham Accords. I've been honored to take part in it, as has Rabbi Badi. What made you decide to open up a Holocaust exhibition in your museum?
As you know, the museum actually does not talk. The museum is not about the UAE or about Muslims or Arabs or about Dubai. The museum is about the culture of the UAE. The culture of, cascades there, down from the leadership. This museum has been open since 2012, where we have, artifacts, and we have religious stuff from Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Israel documents such as, Theodore Herzl letters, original one, and other things. So this culture has been there. When the peace happened, it was the right time. We in the UAE we try to spearhead development and change, and it was the right time. With the peace, it's not only political peace or economic peace. It's, and the best indicator of the success is the cultural and the compassion for one another. It's not about the peace in the good time. Also, we have peace, to feel for one another, we have a compassion for one another. So it's the right time to take leadership, to educate people and correct the narrative of the Holocaust in the Arab and Islamic world. So the decision was mainly, to reintroduce Holocaust in the region. And by the way, if I may say that, we did not build it for the Jews or for the Israelis. We built it for the non-Jews and non-Israelis. We in the UAE have more than 206 national ethnicities. And we, not as Israelis, no, we as Muslims, we as Christians, and also, we have, of course, our colleague, the creator from Israel, Yael Grabi, we have built this one, and to talk to people, communicate with people who do not believe in the Holocaust. We have many people from different nationalities who do not have peace with Israel, but they are exposed. It's an opportunity for them to really learn about the Holocaust and what happened. Because the Holocaust, when I was in the United States in 1994, when they opened the Holocaust Museum, I was touched by the rabbi's speech, because when he talked about the Holocaust, he talked about humanity. He did not talk about the Jews. He talked about humanity, because this was a message for everyone. And there's no, better example try to prevent such thing by talking about the most crime which was against humanity, which crimes against the Jews, and most genocide about the Holocaust. So here we are trying to be realistic. We talk about multiculturalism, we talk about embracing, we talk about respecting one another, but in absence of that, such Holocaust thing can happen again and again. So it was very important, that we take the lead in that area.
And we thank you, Ahmed. It's really a very moving exhibition, and the fact that it's in the first one in the Arab world, and hopefully there'll be more to follow suit. So before we go, we have some questions. I'm not sure we're going to get through all of them because we're almost getting to our time, but we have some interesting questions. What is being done to bring in more countries? Is anything being done to bring in more countries? Maybe Ambassador Friedman, you can answer that question for us.
Sure. Well,
I think you're on mute, Ambassador. Yeah.
You are right. Sorry.
Okay.
That always happens.
No problem.
When you think about the Abraham Accords, each agreement is different, and you have to look at it as Israel, an Arab country, could be UAE, could be Bahrain, could be Morocco, could be Sudan. And then at the apex of the triangle is the United States. And nobody, as wonderful as these countries are doing by themselves, and they are doing incredibly well, nobody should understate the importance of the United States at the apex of the triangle, providing the encouragement and the resources and the security that these countries need in these new relationships. Now, I'm convinced that had we still been in office, we would probably have Saudi Arabia, which I think is the linchpin. I think with Saudi coming on board, you can start talking about really ending the Arab-Israeli conflict, for good. But the United States has to play a role, and the United States has to lead, and the United States has to be in a position to project its strength and its authority and its values into the region. I don't want to make this into a longer conversation than it should be or get too political, but as the United States begins to chase countries like Iran, as it proceeds to move forward into what I think is a deal much worse than the original JCPOA, when it doesn't listen to Israel, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, the three countries that are most affected by Iran. Those are the three countries that know the best. They know the best what the risks are, and they're all telling the United States to slow down. When the United States doesn't listen to them, the Abraham Accords are not going to move forward, you know, in terms of more countries. I don't know that it will jeopardize any of the existing relationships, but it's not going to scale these accords because the U.S. has to be of one mind, leading against the common threats and against extremism. When the United States does not stand against extremism, there are limits. These countries have to start thinking inward about protecting themselves rather than looking outward. And so it's a big factor. And I'm not optimistic about going forward as long as we have these risks now with the U.S. going into another deal with Iran.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think we have time for one more question. I think we'll end up on a positive note or a note of something to think about. How do we sustain and potentially the strategic ties Abraham Accords built? How do we keep leadership involved and champion the cause? Dr. Al-Nuaimi, how do we keep leadership involved? Or is this now a people-to-people peace, new model for peace that doesn't need the leadership so involved? How do you see it?
Well, I see it. We need both. We need to keep the engagement people to people, but also we need the leadership to push the boundary and open a new opportunity. Actually, I agreed with what Ambassador David mentioned, but you know, at the same time, I think we shouldn't just in the region wait until a new administration come and try to push the others to join. It's our responsibility to take the lead, to convince others in the region that there is an added value of peace, that peace for all will create a better future for them. And this is why I mentioned during my visit to Israel 4 weeks ago that I give you an example, the project of water and electricity between Israel, UAE, and Jordan. This is something we need to promote, to show the Jordanian that, you know, they will drink water from Israel. The Israeli will see that they are getting electricity from Jordan. This is where this engagement, this needs a leadership. And this is why you will see that the last week meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh between our crown prince, the Egyptian president, and Israeli prime minister, it's in that way. Today meeting also in Israel for this foreign minister. I think we have to keep pushing. We have to keep the momentum, you see, until we show not only the government in the region, but the people, the added value of being part of the peace initiative.
Absolutely. And Rabbi Badi, maybe you can actually answer the last question as a closing statement. Are the Jewish and Arab populations as welcoming to one another as this panel is?
Well, certainly I hope so, and I believe so. My experience here in the last year and a half since I came, very similar to what you mentioned. When I would walk down the street with my kippah, with my hat, I have people telling me, Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, welcome. Some people wanted to take pictures with me. I have not sensed, heard, seen any unwelcome remark by anybody here in the UAE. And so I do believe that the camaraderie found in this panel, which were very dear, close friends, all of us, is found in the streets here in the UAE, and that bodes for a beautiful future for the entire region, as many other countries and many other places will join, hopefully, in this rapprochement, in this coexistence, in this rebuilding and recreating the golden era. It bodes a great future for the next generation and for the future of not just of the region, but of the whole world and of humanity in general.
Inshallah, amen. Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists, His Excellency Dr. Ali Rashid Al-Nuaimi, Rabbi Dr. Eli Abadi, the Honorable David Friedman, His Excellency Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri. And it's really been an incredible panel. And I would like to hand it back to our good friend Michael Steinberger, who was the initiator of this wonderful discussion and this event this evening. Michael.
And thank you for the dignitaries who made today's event interesting and successful. Just before we close, I would like to make a couple of announcements. We would like to talk about upcoming events. We have several type of events coming up. First, live events and exhibitions. These include our At the Crossroads of Sefarad, in the Footsteps of the Crypto Jews mobile exhibit created in partnership with the Amon Museum of the Jewish People in Tel Aviv. The exhibit made its US and global debut this week at the Bernard Museum of Judaica, located at the Emmanuel Temple's Stryker Center. The exhibit will be making appearances all over the globe. Look for our announcements. Obviously, our online educational webinars. Some of you attending today's event have been participating with our ongoing and successful webinars. We would like to announce here today that in addition to our regular webinar programming, that we are in the process of launching a comprehensive 44-segment education webinar program covering the Sefarad legacy from inception to present day. Be on the lookout for upcoming announcements. Finally, on-site educational seminars. We will be cautiously and carefully resuming our on-site visits featuring historical cultural programs that bring the Sefarad legacy to life. Look for upcoming announcements. Lastly, as you guys know, as everyone here can imagine, Jewish Heritage Alliance delivers informative, engaging events year-round. We ask you to support our efforts so that we may continue providing you with more excellent educational webinars. Please donate on our on the page appearing on your screen, or save it for another time. We thank you for your continued interest and support. Thank you all. And at this time, because we already went through the Q&A, I will bid everybody let me not be remiss. The slide up now is we're acknowledging all of our friends and affiliates around the globe. Thank you all. And thank you everybody for making this event a success. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.